Hello learners, I am Dr. Neetu Shukla and I am here with you to take a session about the World Education Forum, Dhaka, Senegal 2000. This event was organized by the International Consultative Forum on Education for All, also known as the EFA Forum, a body created in 1991 to monitor education for all post-Socio conference in 1990. It composed of representatives of the 5 international agencies that sponsored the initiative: UNESCO, UNICEF, UNDP, UNFPA and the World Bank, and of bilateral cooperation agencies, governments and NGOs, as well as by some education specialists. The purpose of the forum was to present the global results of the evaluation of the Decade of Education for All launched in Jomtien, Thailand in March 1990 and to adopt a new framework for action, essentially in order to continue the task. The representatives from 155 countries and 150 organizations participated and pledged to provide education for all by the year 2015 at this World Conference on Education for All, reaffirming the vision of World Declaration on Education for All adopted 10 years earlier, Jomtien in Thailand 1990. The report of UNESCO of the International Commission on Education for the 21st Century promoted a view of education crossing consisting of 4 pillars of education, which need to be kept in context when we are talking about education for all. These 4 pillars were learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, and learning to live together. The meeting in Dhaka, the participants committed themselves to the achievement of education for all, goals and targets for every citizen and for every society. The education for all goals were: number 1, expanding and improving comprehensive early childhood care and education, especially for the most vulnerable and disadvantaged children. Second objective was to ensure that by 2015, all children, particularly girls, children in difficult circumstances and those belonging to ethnic minorities have access to and complete free and compulsory primary education of good quality. The third aim was to ensure that the learning needs of all young people and adults are met through equitable access to appropriate learning and life skills program. You must note here that life skills are very important and significant for education for all. Next, achieving a 50% improvement in levels of adult literacy by 2015, especially for women, and equitable access to basic and continuing education for all adults. The next objective was eliminating gender disparity in primary and secondary education by 2005 and achieving gender equality in education by 2015, with a focus on ensuring girls' full and equal access to and achievement in basic education of good quality, improving all aspects of the quality of education and ensuring excellence of all so that recognized and measurable learning outcomes are achieved by all, especially in literacy, numeracy, and essential life skills. For when we talk about education for all, it doesn't mean that everybody is enrolled and everybody has access to school. It also means that everybody achieves and they succeed. The aims of World Education Forum were to mobilize strong national and international political commitment for education for all, develop national action plans and enhance significantly investment in basic education. Here we should remind ourselves that in the Jomtien conference 10 years back, the same effort was called for. But when the assessment was done, it was found that many countries were lagging behind in the realization of these goals. Hence, once again, the Dhaka framework is stated that we should mobilize strong national and international political commitment for education for all. And there is a need that each country develop national action plans and enhance significant investment in basic education. Next, to promote EFA policies within a sustainable and well-integrated sector framework clearly linked to poverty elimination and development strategies. We should remind here ourselves of the fact that education for all aimed not just for educating people, but it was in fact aiming for a very higher goal of human development. And when we talk about human development, sustainable and well integrated support framework is required so that poverty is eliminated and developmental strategies take their due course of time. To meet the needs of education systems affected by conflict, national calamities and instability and conduct educational programs. All over the world, violence has been pervading everywhere, and because of which many countries have not been able to realize their goals of education for all. So, in this forum it was realized that such countries which are affected by conflict, some kind of war situation, some kind of disturbance, maybe there was a tsunami, maybe there was an earthquake which led to national calamities and instability, their special effort has to be made by the national agencies as well as international agencies by conducting educational programs in ways that promote mutual understanding, peace and tolerance and help to prevent violence and conflict. Because when we talk about sustainable development, we want development of all, a development which will take us forward and not backward, something which will promote all of us and will not annihilate anybody. To implement integrated strategies for gender equality in education, which recognize the need for changes in attitudes, values and practices. Of the many reasons which were identified for the non-fulfillment of EFA, one reason was that people, communities were yet not prepared and ready for implementing the strategies of education for all in the right spirit. This required for a change in attitudes, values and practices. Hence, in this framework, it was stressed that the objective and the goal should be to implement integrated strategies for gender equality in education, which recognize the need for changes in attitudes, values and practices. Implement as a matter of urgency education programs and actions to combat the HIV/AIDS. The world is growing fast at a huge pace. In our country itself, the number of adolescents is on the rise, and with this, a number of challenges are also coming up. It's very essential that issues such as HIV, AIDS and all these are discussed and programs are launched for the target group so that they are able to contribute their own part in a sustainable development of this world. To enhance the status, morale and professionalism of teachers, for we all know that if the teachers are not motivated, if they are not satisfied, how can we expect them to deliver that satisfaction, that motivation to their learners? Hence, it's mandatory that all the national agencies and the international agencies, they make efforts to enhance the status, the morale and professionalism of teachers. The world is changing, technology is coming in, thus it's urgent that we harness this new information and communication technologies to help achieve education for all. Systematically monitor progress towards education for all goals and strategies at the national, regional and international levels. It's said that we are able to make plans very well, but when it comes to implementation, that's where all our plans fail. The primary reason behind this is that the monitoring is not happening properly. Hence, the darker framework once again stressed that monitoring should be done so that the goals are achieved, the strategies are implemented in the right spirit and they are able to deliver their goals both at the national, regional and international levels. What can be achieved through strong national strategies supported by effective development cooperation, progress must be accelerated through increased international support. This point needs to be underlined that international support has to be there. In the framework for action, it is reiterated that there is an emphasis on the need for participatory mechanisms and processes within each country in order to design, implement and monitor these national plans. Once the plans are made, once the national level policies are executed, it is important that a participatory mechanism is launched where the community is involved in the manifestation and implementation of all the processes and the strategies. The processes within each country, they need to be implemented in the right spirit and they need to be monitored as well. It is said in the framework that the heart of education for all activity lies at the country level. National Education for All forums will be strengthened or established to support the achievement of education for all. Thus, in this framework, they once again stated that the national forums have to be strengthened to support the achievement of EFA. All relevant ministries and national civil society organizations will be systematically represented in these forums. They should be transparent and democratic and should constitute a framework for implementation at sub-national levels. For unless and until this monitoring is done, the goals are far to be achieved. The countries with less developed strategies must be given the support they need to achieve more rapid progress towards education for all. The participant countries will strengthen accountable international and national mechanisms. To give clear expression to these commitments and to ensure that the darker framework for action is on the agenda of every international and regional organization, every national legislature and every local decision making forum. So what has been observed that in the darker framework, for the first time it was said that the community involvement, the national involvement has to be more. The Education for All 2000 assessment highlights that the challenge of education for all is greatest in sub-Saharan Africa, in South Asia and in the least developed countries. Implementation of the preceding goals and strategies will require national, regional and international mechanisms to be galvanized immediately. National Education for All forums will be strengthened or established to support the achievement of education for all. For those countries with significant challenges such as complex crises or natural disasters, special technical support will be provided. National delegations left Dhaka with the task of organizing in the immediate future National Education for All forums and drawing up in a participatory manner National Education for All plans by 2002. So, the goals of the World Conference were too ambitious, no doubt, but they are worth striving for. Every nation must own the responsibility and come out with a realistic plan of action for achieving the objectives as per their needs and requirement. International cooperation and commitments to this objective must be sought, must be honored and put into effect. The program was organized in plenary sessions, broad policy issues and strategy sessions, key operational issues, linked with the theme of each plenary. During the plenary session, some of the themes were improving the quality and equity of education for all, making effective use of resources for education, cooperating with civil society to achieve social goals through education, promoting education for democracy and citizenship, fulfilling our shared commitment to education for all, establishing the new partnership for education for all. During the sub-plenary sessions, the themes explored were technology for basic education, a luxury or a necessity, overcoming obstacles in the education of girls, overcoming the effects of HIV/AIDS on basic education, fighting poverty and marginalization through broad education. During the strategy session, some of the themes explored were meeting special and diverse education needs, making inclusive education a reality, universalizing free and compulsory primary education, expanding access to early childhood development programs, designing basic education content to meet the needs and values of society, assessing learning achievement, enabling teachers to enable learners, utilizing debt relief for education, working with the business community to strengthen basic education, strategic choices in development and use of teaching and learning resources, providing basic education in situations of emergency and crisis, monitoring the provision and outcomes of basic education, mobilizing new resources for basic education, building effective partnerships with funding agencies, promoting population and reproductive health, especially among young people through basic education, building social integration through bilingual and mother tongue education. It is very essential that when we are aiming for education for all, we want to reach out to each and every quarter, each and every corner of a nation. We have to ensure that the basic education which is being imparted is given in the language of the child, that is, the mother tongue. Hence, the emphasis on bilingual education. A fresh start to school health, improving learning and educational outcomes by improving health, hygiene and nutrition, promoting basic education and democracy, the role of the media. This is again a very significant theme which was deliberated upon, that how media is contributing to the realization of the goals of EFA, including the excluded, enhancing educational access and quality, ensuring literacy for all, a renewed vision for a 10-year global action plan, and most important, after primary education, what? The deliberations were on as to how future has to be chalked out, the future plans have to be carved out. Now, some data from Education for All 2000 regarding the global assessment. It was found that in around 60 countries which carried out learning assessment operations, only 5% of primary pupils attained or surpassed the minimum levels of learning. This shows the dismal state of education that we are imparting to our children. The figures for repetition remain extremely high. Among the causes of the low quality of education, some of them were the low salaries and poor training of teachers. Worldwide, 63% of the cost of education was found to be covered by government agencies. Only 35% was covered by the private sector, which included parents, and 2% by external cooperation. Half of the developing countries which supplied information reported spending less than 1.7% of their GNP on basic education in 1998. This shows the priority which has been assigned to education for all by various nations. Some of the challenges and opportunities which were explored during this meet were that many countries are still striving for education for all. They are still trying to meet the access needs of their learners. They are striving to define what is basic education, what content would go into the basic education. Another challenge is, what is clear is that quality must not suffer as access expands, and that improvements in quality should not benefit the economically well off. So, a conscientious effort has to be made by the government of the various countries as well as other bodies who are working towards EFA, that they are able to distribute the benefits of their strategies, their policies and their other practices to the ones who really need them. Another challenge is accessing the girls' education, ensuring that they are being given the equal right to study, to enroll, to excel, and above all, inclusive education, trying to reach out to all the marginalized sections of the society. So, with this we come to the end of this session. See you in the next session. Thank you.
iOS के जरिए नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग या राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान। इस संस्थान का एक बड़ा उद्देश्य है आम आदमियों के जीवन को बेहतर बनाना। ऐसे लोग जिनके लिए शिक्षा एक दूर का सपना है, या वे बच्चे जो परिवार की रोजी रोटी कमाने के लिए बीच में ही स्कूल छोड़ने पर मजबूर हो जाते हैं। NIOS ऐसे बच्चों और बड़ों को दोबारा शिक्षा से जुड़ने का मौका मुहैया कराता है ताकि वे एक बेहतर जीवन जी सकें। 1989 में स्थापना के बाद NIOS ने देश के लाखों बच्चों और वयस्कों को बेहतर शिक्षा से जोड़ा है। इनमें हर उम्र, हर पृष्ठभूमि, हर जाति, हर मजहब और हर क्षेत्र के लड़के लड़कियां, महिलाएं और पुरुष शामिल हैं। बढ़ई से लेकर पायलट, डॉक्टर, इंजीनियर, बेकर और दर्जी तक NIOS कोशिश कर रहा है सबको शिक्षित और सशक्त बनाने की, चाहे वो असम के दूर दराज इलाके में रहने वाला हो या फिर मुंबई जैसे महानगर का। NIOS ने अपनी मौजूदगी हर जगह दर्ज कराई है। NIOS ने शिक्षा की परंपरागत सोच को ही बदल दिया है। वो पढ़िए जो हम पढ़ाते हैं की जगह NIOS की नई सोच है, हम वो पढ़ाते हैं जो आप पढ़ना चाहते हैं। इस नई सोच ने लोगों को आगे बढ़ने और NIOS के साथ जुड़ने के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया है। शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराने के मामले में NIOS किसी सीमा को नहीं मानता, उम्र की सीमा को भी नहीं। चंडीगढ़ के गणेश के लिए भी NIOS एक वरदान साबित हुआ। NIOS शारीरिक रूप से अक्षम बच्चों को भी बेहतर शिक्षा मुहैया कराने के लिए पूरी तरह प्रतिबद्ध है। ऐसे बच्चों के लिए शिक्षा न केवल रोजगार के द्वार खोलती है, बल्कि उन्हें आत्मविश्वास और गर्व के साथ जीना भी सिखाती है। NIOS खेल के इन सितारों को उनकी सुविधा और समय के अनुसार बेहतर शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराता है। मेरी कॉम, सोमदेव देववर्मन, देविका रेबेका पल्लिकल, अरमान इब्राहिम, प्रद्युमन प्रकाश और अमय जोत सिंह। NIOS सीमा पर खड़े उन प्रहरियों को भी शिक्षा से लाभान्वित करता है जो देश की सुरक्षा के लिए अपनी जान की बाजी लगाने से भी नहीं चूकते। सच तो ये है कि NIOS की पहुंच हर ओर रहती है, चाहे वो दूर दराज के आदिवासी हो या जेल की कोठरी में बंद कैदी या फिर ग्रामीण और शहरी क्षेत्रों के गरीब निवासी। देश में कहीं भी कोई भी व्यक्ति, स्त्री, पुरुष, लड़का, लड़की, अमीर, गरीब शिक्षा से वंचित न रहे। राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान का यही मिशन है।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान पूरे देश में शिक्षा के साथ साथ कौशल विकास के क्षेत्र में बहुत सारे कोर्सेज दे रहा है। लगभग 100 से ज़्यादा कोर्सेज हैं। हम दूर दराज के गांव में अपने संस्थान बनाते हैं और वहाँ के बच्चों को, वहाँ के बच्चियों को, वहाँ के वयस्कों को हुनर के क्षेत्र में शिक्षा पहुँचाते हैं। आपको जानकर खुशी होगी कि अब हम आर्ट, साइंस, कॉमर्स जिन क्षेत्रों में 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेट दिया जाता रहा है, अब हम हुनर के क्षेत्र में, वोकेशनल एरिया में भी 10वीं और 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेशन करेंगे। तो वो बच्चे जो कृषि से जुड़े हुए हैं, कारपेंट्री से जुड़े हुए हैं या दूसरे क्षेत्रों से जुड़े हुए हैं, वो अपने ही क्षेत्र में काम करेंगे, सीखेंगे, हुनर पैदा करेंगे अपने में और सर्टिफाइड भी होंगे कि वो सर्टिफाइड कृषक हैं, खेतिहर हैं। तो आज तक जो हमारे देश में ये सोच रही है कि आप 12वीं पास तभी कहे जाएंगे जब भूगोल, अर्थशास्त्र, भौतिकी ये पढ़ेंगे, अब ये समय बदल गया है। ITI में जितने बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, लगभग 18 लाख बच्चे हर साल दाखिला लेते हैं। अब हम उनको सर्टिफिकेशन करेंगे।
NIOS अपने छात्रों को माध्यमिक स्तर पर 26 और उच्च माध्यमिक स्तर पर 19 विषयों का विकल्प देता है। पढ़ाई किस माध्यम से करनी है, इसमें भी आपको लचीलापन मिलेगा। माध्यमिक स्तर पर ही 7 भाषाओं के अलग अलग माध्यमों का विकल्प मौजूद है। शैक्षणिक कार्यक्रमों के अलावा 86 वोकेशनल शिक्षा कार्यक्रम भी उपलब्ध हैं। जो छात्रों को कामकाजी दुनिया के लिए तैयार करते हैं। वोकेशनल प्रशिक्षण को अधिक सुदृढ़ बनाने के लिए NIOS ने ITDC, सिस्को, इंडियन मेडिकल एसोसिएशन जैसे कई सरकारी और गैर सरकारी संस्थानों के साथ भागीदारी स्थापित की है। आज लाखों छात्रों के लिए अपनी पसंद का स्कूल है राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान यानी नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग। NIOS ने एक लंबा सफर तय किया है, लेकिन मंजिल अभी दूर है। निरंतर विकास और नवीनीकरण के लिए NIOS सदैव प्रतिबद्ध है। शिक्षा का उद्देश्य महज रोजगार जुटाना ही नहीं है, बल्कि स्वयं को सशक्त बनाना भी है। NIOS लाखों छात्रों के लिए यही आत्मसम्मान दिलाने में जुटा है। लाखों लोगों के लिए एक आशा और उम्मीद है। नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग। शिक्षा सबके लिए, कहीं भी, कभी भी।
घर बैठे पाएं राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान यानी NIOS में एडमिशन, वो भी एकदम आसान तरीके से, जिससे शिक्षार्थियों को होगी समय और धन दोनों की बचत। NIOS से शिक्षा कभी भी, कहीं भी। शिक्षार्थियों, क्या आप जानते हैं NIOS में एडमिशन लेने का सरल और सुगम तरीका, जिससे शिक्षार्थियों को ऑनलाइन प्रवेश लेने में सहूलियत मिलती है। NIOS में प्रवेश की प्रक्रिया पूर्णतया ऑनलाइन है। शिक्षार्थी घर बैठे इंटरनेट द्वारा प्रवेश के लिए सबसे पहले NIOS की वेबसाइट www.nios.ac.in पर लॉगिन करें। अपना ईमेल आईडी और पासवर्ड डालकर अपना पंजीकरण करें। पंजीकरण के बाद लॉगिन करने पर ऑनलाइन प्रवेश हेतु आवेदन पत्र खुलेगा। आवेदन पत्र को निर्देशानुसार भरें और प्रिंट आउट लें। इस प्रिंट आउट पर अपनी फोटो संलग्न करें। ऑनलाइन प्रवेश के लिए शुल्क हेतु भुगतान के तरीके हैं: क्रेडिट कार्ड के द्वारा, डेबिट कार्ड के द्वारा, राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक के ड्राफ्ट के माध्यम से, जो कि सचिव NIOS नई दिल्ली या नोएडा के पक्ष में देय हो। भरे हुए आवेदन पत्र के साथ साथ डिमांड ड्राफ्ट और संलग्न किए जाने वाले दस्तावेज हैं: जन्म रजिस्ट्रार के जिला कार्यालय से जारी जन्म प्रमाण पत्र की सत्यापित प्रति, जिसमें जन्म तिथि अंकित हो, पिछले विद्यालय से प्राप्त विद्यालय छोड़ने का प्रमाण पत्र, जिसमें आवेदक की जन्म तिथि लिखी हो। प्रवेश फॉर्म का प्रिंट आउट NIOS के संबद्ध क्षेत्रीय केंद्रों पर 10 दिनों में पहुंच जाना चाहिए, अन्यथा उचित दस्तावेज न लगे होने पर आवेदन फॉर्म रद्द किया जा सकता है। प्रवेश प्रक्रिया की पुष्टि होने के बाद शिक्षार्थियों को परिचय पत्र व अध्ययन सामग्री डाक द्वारा तुरंत पहुंचाई जाती है। ऑनलाइन प्रवेश एक बहुत ही सुगम और सुविधाजनक प्रवेश प्रणाली है। ऑनलाइन ऑन टाइम फॉर सेफ एंड सिक्योर एडमिशन।